I don't understand why people are looking for reasons to ignore other people, to not listen to them, to not hear them out. I'm looking for reasons to learn from somebody. I'm going to guess that that has to do with, I'm very confident in my ability to parse through difficult ideas. It takes me time, and I wish I was faster, and that's why I would defer to you in a debate, not myself. Like, if you leave me alone with the ideas long enough, I feel that I'll get somewhere fruitful. But it's going to take me time. And so I'm very confident in my ability to say, you can have a really smart person tell me something really fucking stupid, and I'm going to run it through my filter of, is this usable? Is this more or less likely to accurately predict the outcome of my behaviors? If less likely, I will reject. If more likely, I will at least try it out and see what happens. So I have a feeling that people get lost in the sophisticated ideas. There's so much coming at them, so much velocity of information that they just need a reason to reject people, to shut them down. And then feeling righteous. I'm right, he's wrong. And that makes me feel smart, because I used to think he was so much smarter than me, and now I know he's dumb. I saw so many comments like that. I used to think Sam was smart. Now I know that he's dumb. And it's like, I worry that that's them patting themselves on the back. Oh, I'm not as dumb as I thought I was. I'm smarter than Sam Harris. Super dangerous. Also, I'll be interested. So I'm going to give you my take on what's really going on with Sam. That's dangerous. You just talked to him, so you may have a way better idea. But I put a tweet thread out, and this was one of the tweet threads that made me realize getting into, like, quote unquote political think, I'm just never going to do. It's so boring to me. Like, I tried to really give people what I thought was a super thoughtful, useful breakdown, that if you understand his way of thinking, that you still don't have to agree with it, but understand how he's come to it, because then, one, you can think through these things better in the future. And anyway, people were just like, no, Trump broke his brain. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, at least address the argument. So this is my interpretation of Sam. Sam has a tripwire in his mind that says, if this is an existential threat, then there is nothing that I won't do to stop the existential threat from coming through, as long as it's not another existential threat. And so it's like, if you believe that Trump could end humanity, then everything he says makes sense. But everybody wants to say that wasn't the context of his comment, that they were saying that he was saying it as if that's what he thought we should have done. So everyone's like, yeah, if the thing was 100 times more lethal, then yeah, it would make sense. Yes, that's his fucking point, is that if this thing is an existential threat, then we should act in this way. He believes Trump is an existential threat. And so my point is, what do we do when we can't agree on when we're actually under that level of threat or not? That is a terrifying question. That is where people need to figure out, how do we? What's the metric by which you judge success? What's the metric by which we judge something where we can't see into the future? That this actually is an existential threat. How do we navigate that? Because this is going to happen again, for sure. So that's where I was like, I think the problem with Sam's argument is Trump isn't an existential threat, not existential.
It's interesting because you and I have come to the exact same conclusion, which is, I think the reason Sam spoke the way he did about Trump and COVID, to the extent that he did, is that he assesses the threat of those two things, or did assess them, in a completely different way to most people. The problem with that is that, if I ran in here and said, well, if you don't move that cup, we're all going to die, and then you refused and I shot you, that'd be a pretty big fucking problem.
Yes.
Right? So I think a lot of people felt that he was misassessing the threat, and as a result, asking or suggesting things that were inappropriate to suggest in that situation, which is my view. I also, to steelman the other argument against Sam, I don't necessarily share it, or I don't know, let me say it first and then I'll think about whether I share or not, is that there is a certain kind of person who is extraordinarily well-educated, well-read, sophisticated, smart, refined, aware of the complexity of the world, who just finds Donald Trump personally obnoxious. And that obnoxiousness bleeds through into the factual analysis of Trump's behavior, which is where the threat misassessment comes from. Some people might argue. So it's not a logical reaction to the actual threat that Trump poses. It's a reaction to his boorishness and to his this kind of like the way he speaks. You know, he's not sophisticated. He doesn't sound educated. I don't know whether he is or not. I don't think Trump is stupid at all, but that is the sort of thing that people like to say. And, you know, California is a place there's a lot of people who think like that. So I think that's why a lot of people react to Trump the way they do. And as we talked about earlier, I think he's prepared to say the ugly truth in a way that makes it even uglier.
Well said.
And people don't like that. However, I do think, as I said earlier, that given a beautiful lie and an ugly truth that is made even uglier, if that is what's on the ballot, I'm going with the truth, and I don't give a shit how ugly it sounds, you know. And that is not a position that I would have held in 2016. I just think the nature of the problems we're now facing is so much greater than it was back then. And I warned about this. I said to people, if you allow this woke ideology to get out of control, you're going to get people who are going to come along and go, look at this, look what they created. And the vast majority of most normal people are going to go, okay, I'm with you. Because at least you're willing to be honest. At least you're willing to try and deal with the problems that have been created. I think there's going to be a backlash against what has happened now. And this is what I was saying at the time. I was like, I'm not against wokeness because I'm on the right. I'm against wokeness because it's going to cause a right-wing backlash, and it's a bad idea in and of itself too. So I think in that respect, that is, I think, where the Sam situation came from. And like I said, I didn't agree with him, but I think he has lots of other valuable things to say. And by the way, in the conversation that we had with Eric, he brought up a thing that people aren't talking about. Maybe it's true or maybe not. People can make their own judgment about it. But he was like, look, Israel-Palestine is not about Palestine. It's about something else.
Tell me more.
It's about jihad. These people are not upset because they care about oppressed Palestinians. They are jihadis who see the West and Israel as the enemy to be wiped out. And that is what motivates them. And therefore, we have to calibrate our response to that. That is not a point of view that you hear a lot, but it is a point of view that I think is valid.
And jihadi is somebody who believes they're fighting God's war.
Yes.
God wants this enemy wiped out.
Yes.
You are doing God's work if you go do that.
And martyrdom in the service of jihad is the greatest achievement you can have. Therefore, to take your own life and give it for that is the greatest good. The loss of civilian life is irrelevant, because if a good Muslim dies in the service of jihad, he goes straight to paradise. And if you're not a good Muslim, or if you're not a Muslim, your life doesn't matter because you're an infidel. That changes the calculus and the game theory of everything immediately. And that's a valuable perspective, whether it's, whether you personally think it's correct or not. I think it's a valuable dimension to this conversation that has to be taken into account. And Sam is somebody who provides an immense level of clarity, and has done from an early point in this conversation, about that issue, which is super important, I think.
Yeah, he recently released a podcast about, I think it's like the problem with moral equivalency or something like that. Last couple of days. Yeah, he is a very clear thinker. Whether you agree or disagree, he gives you the arguments so clearly, so concisely. You can decide for yourself whether you think he's right or wrong. He certainly isn't wishy-washy or trying to use linguistic tricks. Like, he is, this is what I think, this is why I think it. That's one of the reasons that there are precious few public thinkers that are so clear in their thinking. Thomas Sowell being another one. Sam Harris being one, where they can just lay out their arguments like step by step so that you can piece it back together. It's really pretty extraordinary.
And that brings up a point that Eric made in that second section of the interview on locals, which is that he when we were talking about is there a way to kind of repair the intellectual dark web which fell apart, a lot of people would argue just because there were too many male egos, fighting it out, duking it out. But he was like, Eric said something which I think was beautiful, and I can't remember the example he used. It was a very beautiful point and beautifully made, which was about the fact that this doesn't belong to us. This group of people who are prepared to think out loud in public, it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to other people. And we can't let internal bullshit get in the way of that service to others. And I thought that was a very important message. And for Sam and Eric to sit in the same room and for us to talk about that, I was very proud of the fact that, and who knows, my hope is that that's the beginning of a beautiful rekindling of friendships and all of that. It might not be, and the way the world's going probably isn't going to be. But I would love for that to be the case. I would love for people who used to be friends to become friends again. I would love for people who used to hash out really, really difficult ideas in the public eye, which is so hard to do in the modern world. So hard. So hard, And we pride ourselves on talking about difficult issues openly, but the number of times we finish a conversation now and we go, okay, well, here's what I would say if it wasn't on camera, because people are terrified to speak openly in public. And it's dangerous. It genuinely is dangerous because a lot of people feel like it's one slip and you're done. One slip and you are Sam Harris, essentially, right? I really, really believe that we move forward as a society when we're able to have really difficult conversations with really smart people without that, with good intentions and good faith. It's really important. It's really important. So I hope that, who knows, but I really hope that happens.
If you like that clip, check out another powerful clip right here, and I'll see you there.